Welcome to this explainer. You know, words have this absolutely tremendous power. You can literally save your own life using the right words, or, on the flip side, trigger a complete disaster with the wrong ones. Today, we're going through a masterclass in the art of verbal self-defense. And just to be clear right up front, this isn't about getting into mental battles or finding clever comebacks or sharp retorts to try and win an argument. It's actually about protecting your peace, preserving your dignity, and neutralizing conflict without ever having to resort to aggression.
Picture this for a second. Someone steps right into your personal space. They're visibly angry, their voice is raised, and they just start yelling at you. What do? I mean, your heart starts racing, your palms might get sweaty, and your brain is essentially screaming at you to either run away or yell back even louder. But here is the real secret of this entire explainer. Our natural, gut reaction to this kind of intense stress almost always makes the situation worse. We need a whole new set of reflexes.
Okay, let's dive into this. We've got 5 training modules lined up for today. First, the anatomy of a verbal attack. Second, situational awareness and mindset. Third, deflection tactics. Fourth, practical verbal judo moves. And finally, what to do when de-escalation fails.
All right, kicking things off with Module 1, the anatomy of a verbal attack. Because before we can block a strike, we really need to understand the mechanics of the attack itself.
So first, we need to draw a hard line between two concepts that honestly get mixed up all the time. Listen, de-escalation is not conflict resolution. Conflict resolution is all about addressing the underlying issue and finding an outcome that works for everyone. But right now, we're focusing purely on verbal self-defense and de-escalation. Our only goal here is lowering the emotional intensity and just restoring calm. It's about surviving that immediate emotional danger, not solving the root problem. The problem can wait. The heat needs to drop right now.
To drop that heat, we got to look at the science of why people actually lose control. When someone feels threatened, their brain function is literally compromised. The rational prefrontal cortex, that's the part responsible for logic and judgment, it just gets completely overwhelmed. Instead, the amygdala fires up. This is what we call an amygdala hijack, and it triggers that primal fight, flight, or freeze response. It just bypasses reasoning entirely. This is happening in your attacker's brain, and listen, if you aren't careful, it's going to happen to you too, forcing this defensive, aggressive reaction before you even have a second to think.
Moving right along to Module 2, situational awareness and mindset, spotting the attack. Because winning a confrontation usually means seeing it coming before a single word is spoken.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is just how much of communication is nonverbal. Experts say it's between 70 to 90%. So you can literally spot an attack brewing just by watching for physical cues. Watch for someone clenching their fists or tightening their jaw. Notice any sudden weird changes in their tone or pacing. And pay super close attention to what experts call the dominance rooster stance. That's where their chest puffs out and the arms move away from the body. If you see these signs, your situational awareness has got to peak immediately. Never turn your back on this person and start figuring out your exit strategy.
But how do you stop your own brain from panicking when you see all these red flags? Well, communication coach Luke Archer calls his solution the inner smile. It's basically this untouchable sense of self-confidence. Think about it like this. If a little toddler comes up, pounds on your knees, and shouts, "You big meanie," you don't feel threatened, right? Of course not. You understand it's just a kid's frustration. When an adult attacks verbally, holding on to that inner smile lets you view them with compassion instead of fear. You realize they're just hurting, or they seriously lack communication skills. You just don't take it personally.
All right, Module 3, deflection and de-escalation tactics. This is where we learn how to gracefully avoid those incoming verbal strikes.
And this brilliantly illustrates the whole philosophy of Verbal Judo, a system developed by George Thompson. Just like a martial artist effortlessly redirects an opponent's momentum, you've got to do the exact same thing in a conversation. Like we said, our natural reaction to an attack is to return fire. But the unnatural and highly trained reaction is to stay totally calm and just deflect and redirect that energy. You're using their own momentum to restore balance, rather than just crashing into them.
One of the absolute best ways to pull this off is by using what are called stripped phrases. These are simple phrases like, "I appreciate that, but," or "I understand that, but." They act as a sort of springboard-focused technique. When someone throws an insult your way, you absorb the tension, you validate their feelings for a second, and then you immediately and politely shift the conversation back toward your actual goal. It makes you sound totally professional, and it completely disempowers the attacker because they aren't getting that big, messy emotional reaction they were fishing for.
Another crazy powerful tool is Luke Archer's 12-word technique. Seriously, the next time you feel a conversation getting heated, just take a deep breath and say exactly this. Right now, we need to listen to each other. I'll listen first. It is incredibly effective. It immediately de-escalates the moment. But there's a catch here. For this to actually work, you literally have to put your own views aside for a minute, zip your lips, and drop into a genuine listening posture.
Okay, let's head into Module 4, Practical Verbal Judo Moves. These are the actionable frameworks you can deploy immediately.
First off, really keep this comparison in mind. Verbal karate is what most of us do by default. It's that natural reaction, lashing out, getting defensive, firing back with sharp remarks. But verbal judo, that's the unnatural reaction. It's making a conscious choice to remain perfectly calm, keep your tone steady, and just redirect the aggression. A snarky response is basically throwing gasoline on their fire, but a level-headed, almost monotone reply, it gives their anger absolutely nothing to feed on.
So when you actually need someone to comply with you, especially when things are super tense, you want to use George Thompson's 5-step method. Step 1, ask them nicely. It's just a basic ethical appeal. Step 2, set the context by explaining why you're asking. Step 3, present options. Look, people love having choices way more than feeling backed into a corner. Step 4, confirm their choice. Ask something like, is there anything I can say or do to earn your cooperation? And finally, Step 5, act based on their decision. It is a literal masterclass in getting people to voluntarily comply.
So the crucial point is figuring out how to insert yourself into someone's rant without just making them angrier. The secret? Paraphrasing. Thompson calls this the sword of insertion. You just say, let me be sure I heard what you just said. This works like absolute magic because at our core, people just want to be heard. By paraphrasing, you interrupt them gently, you prove that you're actively listening, and you force them to stop and listen just to see if you understood them correctly. It instantly drops the temperature in the room.
Finally, Module 5, when de-escalation fails. Because, let's be realistic, not every situation can be talked down.
Over in the self-defense world, they have the 5 Ds to remember: disengagement, deterrence, de-escalation, deception, and defend. And I really want you to notice what sits at number 1, disengagement. Look, when verbal judo fails, the absolute ultimate rule of self-defense is prioritizing your personal safety by physically disengaging. Sometimes you just have to put your ego completely aside and realize that getting into a physical altercation is always a lose-lose situation. Going to the hospital or going to jail, that's a net loss. Just walk away.
Let's move to this and see how it all builds together. Ultimately, verbal self-defense is about mastering yourself first. Silence, self-awareness, and composure are almost always going to speak louder than anger or harsh words. When you learn to actually respond rather than just react blindly, you hold all the power. True strength doesn't come from having the sharpest tongue in the room. It comes from actively choosing calm over chaos and clarity over conflict. Next time you're facing down hostility, remember, your words are your shield. Use them wisely.
So, the very next time you find yourself cornered by someone's anger, ask yourself, are you going to be a victim of their emotional chaos, or are you going to use your words to architect the peace? Thank you so much for watching this explainer. If you enjoyed this kind of content and found these techniques helpful, please like, follow, and subscribe. It's totally free, and honestly, it gives the creator of these explainers the best incentive to keep making more by seeing exactly what viewers like you want to learn about. Stay safe out there, and stay calm.